Pay close attention to this security footage, a dimly lit parking garage at Seattle's Harborview Medical Center. At 7:41 p.m., a man raises a handgun. His name is Marcus Brennan, a 34-year-old high school chemistry teacher. The woman standing before him is Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the city's most respected vascular surgeons. Moments later, 3 gunshots break the silence. What led a mild-mannered teacher to commit murder in a hospital parking lot? To understand that, we have to go back 3 months, to the day Marcus's world fell apart. In 2019, Marcus Brennan taught AP Chemistry at Roosevelt High School. He lived a quiet life, grading papers, mentoring students, and cooking on weekends. That same year, he met Amy Sullivan at a small bookstore in Fremont. Amy was 29, warm-hearted, and endlessly curious, a woman determined to rebuild her life. After years of working retail jobs, she'd earned a 3.9 GPA at community college and secured a full scholarship to the University of Washington's nursing program. Marcus admired her drive. Amy admired his calm. Within 6 months, they were living together in a small studio overlooking the Ship Canal, a cozy, hopeful beginning. Every Sunday, they cooked together, her teaching him Italian recipes, him sharing his grandmother's Irish bread traditions. For Marcus and Amy, life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. That peace wouldn't last. In October 2021, Amy began feeling pain in her left leg, dull at first, then sharp, then unbearable. She dismissed it for weeks. Like many young adults without full medical coverage, she hesitated to seek care. By November, she could barely walk. A visit to her primary care doctor revealed the cause: deep vein thrombosis, a dangerous blood clot extending through her femoral vein into her pelvis. The condition was serious, but treatable. Her physician immediately referred her to a vascular surgeon, Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of Seattle's best. Dr. Vasquez had built an impressive reputation. 15 years in practice. Over 300 surgeries a year. Dozens of journal publications. And a reputation for success, a 94% record on complex vascular procedures. But behind the statistics was a different story. She was brilliant, yes, but also overworked and emotionally detached. Colleagues described her as efficient to the point of robotic. Her patients were numbers, cases to be completed, not lives to be touched. Still, Marcus trusted the system. If this hospital called her the best, she had to be. On November 18, 2021, Marcus and Amy met Dr. Vasquez for the first time. Through the office door, they could hear her on a phone call, something about a medical conference. When she finally entered, she didn't make eye contact. Deep vein thrombosis, left femoral vein, she said, scanning Amy's chart. We'll do a catheter-directed thrombolysis. It's routine. You'll be fine. 9 minutes later, the consultation was over. Marcus asked questions about risks. She brushed them off: standard complications. Bleeding, infection, anesthesia. Nothing unusual. To Amy, it sounded reassuring. To Marcus, it felt rushed. But he didn't argue. She was the expert. They signed the papers. The surgery was scheduled for December 2 ND.at dawn. Amy was admitted to Harborview. Marcus kissed her forehead as nurses wheeled her toward the operating room. "See you in a few hours," he said. Dr. Vasquez arrived late. She'd already completed 2 procedures that morning. It was only 7:45 a.m., and she'd been on her feet since before sunrise. Amy's surgery, her third of the day, began at 8:10. It was supposed to take an hour. Instead, it would end in tragedy. During the procedure, Dr. Vasquez inserted a catheter through Amy's groin to dissolve the clot. But while positioning the device, she accidentally punctured Amy's femoral artery, a critical blood vessel. It was a small tear, but lethal if not caught immediately. The anesthesiologist noticed subtle changes in blood pressure, alarms flickering. Dr. Vasquez, exhausted and distracted, didn't respond in time. By 9:35 a.m., Amy's blood pressure collapsed. The team scrambled: emergency repair, transfusions, desperate measures. But the anti-clotting drugs she'd been given made it impossible to stop the bleeding. At 10:33 a.m., Amy Sullivan was pronounced dead. A routine surgery had become a fatal error. Dr. Vasquez removed her gloves, washed her hands, and stared at the blood-stained basin. For her, it was another complication. For Marcus, it was the end of everything. 20 minutes later, she walked into the waiting room, emotionless. "I'm sorry," she said flatly. "There were complications. We did everything we could." Then she turned to leave. Marcus called after her, "Wait, that's it." But she didn't look back. Her next patient was waiting. That day, something inside Marcus Brennan broke, a quiet fracture that would widen with time. For the first 48 hours, Marcus barely spoke. He sat in his apartment surrounded by Amy's belongings, her nursing textbooks, her half-folded laundry, her planner open to the words, "clinical exam, next week." Friends tried to comfort him. He just nodded, hollow-eyed, replaying Dr. Vasquez's words, "We did everything we could." But Marcus had been a science teacher long enough to know that mistakes don't just happen, they have causes. And someone, somewhere, was responsible. On December 5, Marcus met with the hospital's patient liaison officer. He asked for the surgical report. He asked for the recordings from the operating room cameras. He asked for a timeline, who was in the room, what went wrong. The liaison smiled politely. "Due to privacy regulations, we can't share those details." When Marcus pressed further, he was told to wait for a formal letter. It would arrive within 30 business days. He didn't realize it then, but that phrase "formal letter" would become the wall he could never climb. For weeks later, a thick envelope arrived. The hospital's review committee had concluded that Amy's death was a recognized complication. No disciplinary action would be taken against Dr. Vasquez. The letter was filled with medical jargon: iatrogenic arterial injury, unpredictable hemorrhagic response, unavoidable outcome. To Marcus, it was a whitewashed confession, the system protecting its own. He wrote back, demanding an independent investigation. He received no reply. Pause, subtle ticking clock sound. Grief turned into frustration. Frustration turned into anger. And anger, into obsession. By February, Marcus had taken leave from his teaching job. He spent his days digging hospital databases, medical forums, Reddit threads, and malpractice archives. He learned that Dr. Vasquez had been involved in 3 previous surgical deaths in the past 5 years. Each one labeled unavoidable. Each one quietly settled. The families had all signed non-disclosure agreements. It was a pattern. Marcus began collecting documents, screenshots, and names. He started emailing journalists, no one replied. He reached out to the Washington State Medical Board, their response was brief. Dr. Vasquez remains in good standing. No violations found. Marcus realized something dark: the truth didn't matter if no one wanted to hear it. In March, Marcus contacted a local investigative reporter, Daniel Shore, from the Seattle Ledger. He sent him a 12-page dossier, detailing Amy's death and the hospital's evasive responses. 2 weeks later, Daniel called back. "I looked into it," he said. "The hospital's lawyers stonewalled us. Without proof, we can't publish." Marcus pleaded. But journalism needed evidence, not emotion. The story died before it began. Brief pause. That's when Marcus's grief began to take another form, one that even he didn't recognize at first. It wasn't about justice anymore. It was about revenge. By spring, Marcus's apartment looked like a war room. Walls covered in printouts, surgical schedules, news clippings, red thread connecting names. He barely slept. He stopped paying rent. He was convinced Dr. Vasquez was protected by a corrupt network of administrators and insurers. In reality, she was still performing surgeries, her career untouched. Marcus began showing up at the hospital, sitting in the lobby for hours, watching her walk by in her white coat. He never approached her. Not yet. But every time she passed, he whispered under his breath, "You killed her, and they let you." In May 2022, Marcus filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Harborview Medical Center and Dr. Vasquez. His attorney, Linda Carver, warned him, these cases rarely win. She wasn't wrong. The hospital's lawyers argued Amy's case was a medical tragedy, not negligence. Without expert testimony or procedural violations, the judge dismissed it within months. Marcus walked out of court empty-handed, the last official door had closed. For most people, that would have been the end. For Marcus, it was the point of no return. June 14, 2022. Marcus drove to the hospital again, but this time, he brought something with him. A 9mm Glock pistol, registered under his name. He waited in the parking lot from morning until dusk, watching staff come and go. He saw Dr. Vasquez leave once, smiling, chatting on her phone. He gripped the gun but didn't move. Not yet. He wasn't ready. He went home, sat in silence, and stared at Amy's picture. He whispered, "Tomorrow." In every tragedy, there's a moment when fate could still be changed, if someone intervened. A friend's call. A counselor's visit. A simple act of empathy. For Marcus Brennan, no one came. The system that failed Amy was about to fail him, too. June 15, 2022. Seattle was gray, overcast, and quiet. At 7:12 a.m., Marcus Brennan brewed his last cup of coffee. He placed Amy's favorite mug beside it, the one that said, "Future Nurse." Then he wrote a note. If the system won't listen, maybe now they will. He locked his apartment, tucked the Glock into his jacket, and drove to Harborview Medical Center one last time. On the passenger seat, a folder labeled Evidence. Inside were Amy's records, Dr. Vasquez's name circled in red, and a flash drive. Marcus wasn't running. He was finishing what he believed justice had ignored. At 7:38 p.m., Dr. Vasquez finished her evening rounds. She walked toward her car, scrolling through her phone, unaware that Marcus was waiting by the elevator. Security footage shows him stepping out from the shadows. He says something, the audio has no sound. Witnesses later reported hearing him shout, "You killed her." Dr. Vasquez turned, startled, taking a step back. Marcus raised the gun. 3 shots fired. 2 struck her chest. The third, into the concrete wall. Dr. Elena Vasquez collapsed instantly. Marcus dropped the weapon and knelt beside her. A security guard, 50 yards away, radioed for backup. Marcus didn't run. He whispered, "Now you can rest, Amy." Seattle police arrived within 4 minutes. Marcus surrendered without resistance. Officers described him as calm, detached, and compliant. When asked why he did it, he replied, "Because no one else would." The following day, the story made national headlines. Teacher murders surgeon in hospital parking lot. Revenge killing sparks debate on medical accountability. But the headlines missed the deeper tragedy: 2 lives destroyed, both victims of the same broken system. Prosecutors charged Marcus Brennan with first-degree murder. The defense entered a plea of diminished capacity, citing severe depression and trauma following his partner's death. During the trial, the court heard recordings of his 911 call from months earlier, his letters to journalists, his failed attempts at justice. Experts testified that Marcus suffered from prolonged grief disorder, worsened by bureaucratic stonewalling and emotional isolation. But the prosecution was firm: grief doesn't excuse murder. They played the security footage, slow, silent, undeniable. Marcus never denied it. He simply said, "I wanted her to feel what Amy felt." After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison. The murder sent shockwaves through Washington's medical community. Harborview Medical Center faced public outrage and multiple investigations. Within months, reporters uncovered that Dr. Vasquez had indeed been the subject of internal complaints, none of which had been disclosed publicly. 3 other families came forward with eerily similar stories: unexpected complications, unavoidable outcomes. For the first time, the hospital issued a statement admitting procedural oversights and promising reform. But for Amy and Dr. Vasquez, it was too late. Inside Monroe Correctional Facility, Marcus Brennan became withdrawn. He refused interviews, therapy, and phone calls. He spent hours writing in notebooks, most of which were confiscated by prison staff. But one letter made it out, sent to his former attorney, dated February 2023. It read, "They call me a murderer. Maybe they're right. But tell me, if a system kills someone and no one answers for it, isn't that murder too?" The letter ended with 2 words: "Case closed." In the years since, Washington state quietly passed new legislation, requiring hospitals to disclose all fatal surgical incidents to an independent oversight board. Some call it Amy's Law. It mandates transparency, accountability. But it came at the cost of 2 lives, a compassionate nurse who dreamed of healing others, and a teacher who lost faith in the very system that taught him to believe in truth. Experts now use the Brennan case in ethics seminars, not as a study of crime, but of failure. Failure of communication. Failure of empathy. Failure to see warning signs before they turn deadly. Every year in America, more than 250,000 deaths are linked to medical errors. Most are never reported. Most families never learn the full truth. The case of Marcus Brennan and Dr. Elena Vasquez is not just a story about vengeance, it's a story about silence. When systems protect their own, and pain goes unanswered, tragedy finds its own way to speak. In the end, no one truly won. Not Marcus. Not Dr. Vasquez. Not the hospital. Only the truth remained, buried beneath layers of paperwork, policies, and broken hearts. Because sometimes, justice doesn't arrive in the courtroom. It arrives too late, in the echo of a gunshot.